All right. So that will be reset every time I go to a new row. Let me just finish explaining it, and then I'll take some questions before I record the second part of this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to, if I'll go back to this, it says here I am going to need to work out the total mark for each student of all their subjects. So I'm going to need to add 80, 75 and 90 together, but the only way I can do that is by doing a 2D for loop. Alright, so what I'm going to need to do, I've got my blank array for each student set up, there's nothing in it, but I'm going to create a for loop that goes through this, adds the total marks together, then appends it to this. So watch what we do. So I'm going to say for row in range. Now I'm just going to use numbers for the purpose of this rather than using the len values. But how many rows have we got?
4.
4. What I'm going to use for this rather than the number 4 is I'm actually going to use class size, sorry. Or you could have, if you wanted to, put a 4 there, because I'm going to need to go through each of these, alright? So now that goes through each row. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to then go through each column, alright? So for column in range, let's put a number in there this time. How many items have we got? 3. Well done. Alright, so I'm putting a number in this time, just so I can show how they're interchangeable. Perfect. So now what this will do is go through each of the items. Alright? But what I'm going to need to do is my total marks that I've set to 0, I'm going to do total marks equals total marks plus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to need this array. I'm going to need student marks, student marks. Now in my square bracket, all I need to do is put row and column. So what this does, just so you're aware, alright, is when I'm in that column, I'm going to go, that would be, let me just write it in red so you can see what's happening. It would be total marks is 0 plus 80. Then it would go round to the next item in the column. It would be 80 plus 75, which is
155.
right, so then we've got then 155 plus 90. That's what happens as we iterate through the column. Now we're going to have a problem here because total marks is now going to be 245, right? So when this iteration finishes, this would be 245. We're going to have a problem here because that value is going to be added again. So that's why what we need to do, once we've finished that column, once we've finished that iteration, we're going to jump out of it, okay, and we're going to add, think about our array, student, total marks, dot append, total marks. So we jumped out of that loop, and now we've added that. What that's doing is it's appending it into that array. It's appended it into that array. Okay, but I've got to do something before my row iterates. What have I got to do? Well done. Total marks equals 0. So it's reset before it moves on to the next row. So now I can use that, because that's reset, I can use that now, and I can then, the value of row would have gone up to 1. The value of column is reset again. Now what that would leave you with, just so you are aware, is you would then have an array now called, just so you know what it looks like, this isn't code right now, I'm just showing you what it would look like. Your array student total marks would now look like this: 245 195 253 150. That's what it would have ended up looking like, because what I've done is I've appended each of those items when I've been adding them to that. Alright, I've now got a new array. Now that I've got my total marks, it's actually quite simple, because what I can then do is, that's the most complicated one to go through. What I'm actually able to do now is use a 1D array to iterate through this and divide it by 3 to work out the average. Okay, I can then do a 1D array to go through each of those and work out whether it's a distinction or not. So that is part 1 of the video. Alright, I'm going to give you some time to try that part, and then I'm going to go on to, if you want to move on to the next part, you can.